Welcome to Starfleet Universe On Call. And tonight, it's me, and you got Jeff, and I hope that I'm not freaking people out at the moment because I just realized that my face is a heck of a lot larger than it normally is. Uh, I apologize for if, if you're not used to seeing me so large for those people who are um, watching the video. This is a new setup. I'm still working out the details and getting things working. So I'm not sure if I got the lighting quite right because I see that I'm still a little white at the moment. Um, I could actually try to turn it down, but okay, let's see how that works. Okay, I'll see how that works. No, I don't like that. I'm gonna turn it back up because I see the bridge of my eyes are very dark, and so that's why I need the extra light. That's why I turn it on the extra light to begin with. But anyway, anyhow, sorry to talk so much about me, especially for those people who on the podcast going, man, this is freaking boring. You know, why is he just talking about the video and I can't see it? Warning, you might want to watch the video on this one. I think I'll be able to do okay. And if you have module T 2012, you will be golden. And the reason I say that is because tonight, what we're going to do is at least, and hopefully I can get some feedback from Jeff and other people in the peanut gallery, which is I want to talk about the alternate tournament cruisers. I don't think I've ever talked about them before. Haven't gone through them. I know I've mentioned them, but I don't think I've ever gone through them. So that is going to be the topic for this evening. So moving onward to that, actually, let me bring up this. I'm gonna actually the first one I'm gonna bring up is not quite an alternate anymore. This was previously. I'm not sure. To be honest, at the moment, I'm not sure if it's a fully, blessed um, tournament ship, but I feel pretty confident in saying that it is. Um, and that is the whoops, wrong button. Let me just double check. Yep, wrong button. I'm sorry. I'm still getting used to it back. Oh my lord, this is not looking good. I apologize. Jeez. This is awful, 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 awful. Okay, let's see if I can. Actually, let me do that. Give me a sec here, folks, because I want to see if I can adjust this and if I switch over to this. this, and I'm going to do this, and just make sure that when it comes to that, I've got, yeah, they got the mixture going. It looks good. Okay. Da-da-da. Brave of me. Properties looks good. Looks good. Okay. And according to the audio mixer, I'm getting sound. Okay. Testing, testing, testing. There's the right one. I gotta fix that one. Okay. Okay, that's recording. That's recording. Okay. Still no sound? This is good. Yeah, that's possible. Okay. Okay. So Dave says that the sound's working good now. So I'm gonna let things go. I apologize for the brief interruption for those technical difficulties. Okay, moving onward. Oops. Hey Jeff, you back?
Yep.
Okay. I just noticed that you were muted, so which means usually you got dropped and you came back. Okay. But anyhow, shields wise, the Gendorian is fine. Um, Power, I'm not quite sure about because I'm just double checking here. And you got 32 warp. You've got 34,
24 warp.
24, you're right, 24.
You get
8 times 3.
yeah, three 8-box engines.
Right. And then you have, so you got 24 plus 4 for APR is 28. And you got 2 impulse for a total of 30 points of power. I'm not sure if Margs, um, okay, da, 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 da. How much they cost? Do they cost anything? I think they do. I thought they cost like two warp or something like that. I had to I had to double check on that one. Um, it's been a while since I've played the Zendarians. Jeez, it's been actually it's been years. So I apologize for not knowing the marks, but I still feel like that the how could you correct this? You might have to do something. Let me think. Jeez. What I would think is that you have to have at least 3 margs in arc. So given that, well, the marks would have to be adjust. The location would need to be adjusted, in my mind. So and give them. Let me think about this. The way I see it is you need to give them, 180 degrees. Just thinking. Yeah. What you
You'd
could do.
probably be better off. You'd probably be better off putting the 2 in the front as FA plus the appropriate side arc,
No,
and then put the 2 in the back as RA plus the appropriate side arc.
no. All that does is guarantees you have 2 for every angle. What you
Well,
need.
if you do that, you can get 3. You can get 3 on the oblique approaches coming approach and departure angles. If you're on the number
That's true.
6 or number 1, you can go 3.
Yeah, the wargs. Oh man, 20 point. Oh, those are nasty little buggers. Um, But yeah, you got a point there. You got a point there. I'm just wondering if that's enough, to be honest. But huh, maybe that'd be enough to juice it a little bit. What the heck was that? I don't know what that was. That was weird. But anyhow, um, on more forward, yeah, I, I think the Jandari definitely needs to be worked on. It's
The
I
MRG takes 2 points of power on 2 consecutive turns to arm. It does not require warp power.
okay,
I think the warp variant does.
right, the wargs. Um,
Oh wait a minute. It's not. It's you can't do it with. You can do it with reserve warp power. I'm sorry. I'm reading this quickly on a small screen.
oh, understood. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That you could start it with 2 points of energy.
Right. But it is warp power you need for that.
You need warp power for the wargs or the margs.
Yeah.
Which one?
Medium railguns require 2 points of warp power to arm on each of 2 consecutive turns. It can be fired on the second turn. First turn's arming energy can be allocated or provided by reserve warp power. So, yeah, that's page 147
What?
of the Master Handbook.
That makes no sense. The second you can use reserve power on the second turn. Is that what it said?
The first turn's arming energy can be allocated or provided
Oh, okay.
from reserve warp power,
Okay.
but
Right.
the weapon cannot be fired until 8 impulses. This is basically like photons in that respect.
Right. Right.
I just paraphrased through it.
Oh, understood. I, I totally understand that. And that makes complete sense. Which means this is definitely weak when it comes to warp. The APRs definitely should be AWRs at the very least, and possibly even give it some more power from there, so that it can actually have a decent amount of speed. Because the only thing that's going to save its butt, given the armament, is speed. That's the only. That's one of those things that the Andromedan has that they can do. Obviously, the one thing you can do, but it's pointless, which is you can put the Mark in defensive mode to shoot down the drones, but then you don't have it for offensive. You know, so I I personally think that needs uh, quite a bit of work to actually have it so it's a reasonable ship to fly. I have to think about that. Some next ship that I'm bringing up is the Orion Tournament Heavy Cruiser. Um, if obviously for those who are familiar with the Orion CA, the heavy cruiser, it's very much like that. Obviously, it has some limitations because it's the tournament cruiser, meaning that for the C rack and the D rack, which are side racks, you'd only have either a Phaser 1, a drone rack, or a fusion. And for the E and F, which are also the other two side racks, you can only have a drone rack or plasma, D rack. So, to say very least, and it has two front FA arc weapons. Dun, 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 dun. Yep. So obviously it can have lots of drones if you want. The thing is about this ship, of course, is compared to the Battle Raider, that's the tournament cruiser, current tournament cruiser, it's got more power because you got 30 warp plus 4 impulse, so you got 34 power. This is without doubling, and no APRs, right? Right. So it's got 34 power, and then if you double it, you've got 68 power for at least for one turn. I don't.
You also don't have a cloak.
I don't think you want to try to do a cloak on this one.
Well, that's the primary difference between the two designs. They said, well, if the Orion doesn't take a cloak, can we take a bigger ship? And that's what this is.
Right. Right. And still has the 4 phaser 3s, which are pretty comparable, not quite to the BRs, because it's left rear, 2 of them, and the other 2 are right rear. So it's not quite as good as the Battle Raider when it comes to that kind of defenses, but it's got the 4 facing forward arc phaser 1s. So it's pretty chill when it comes to the number of phaser 1s. So in theory, if you could make this into a pretty nasty phaser boat if you wanted to. Man, but definitely there's quite a bit of limitations, because I'm thinking of if you wanted to have Hellbores or photons, you can have like 1 Hellbore and 1 photon. Woo! Not exactly the best, but definitely more of a beast when it comes to reinforcement. Because if you ever face an opponent where has all the engines and doubled for that one turn, there's no way you're going to get through him. And definitely one of the tactics you can easily see with this one is what the Win Ox box does, which is drones come in hot and heavy, tractor your opponent, launch 6 drones, then launch another 6 drones. After you.
Yes, the traditional Zinti anchor.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and I think this ship could do it actually quite well, given the amount of power it's got, because it can easily beat any other opponent when it comes to power.
And not to mention, it could also brick your return alpha.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's always going to be the gotcha with the ship. That is, if you go and double, you double everything. How much do you actually put into the tractor versus reinforcement? Because do you put like only 15 or 20 into reinforcement, or sorry 15 or 20 into tractor, and you put like 10 into reinforcement? Because the thing is, after you tractor them, you got to survive the punch that they're going to give you.
Yeah.
So that can be, you can end up in a very difficult situation with that. But I definitely think it's a viable ship. Some of the limitations I don't like. When it comes to optional weapons, because I definitely think they're more limited than the Battle Raider. But of course, the Battle Raider also.
The Orions have always been hard to balance in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Oh, agreed, and especially in this case, it's a tournament, so there are certain other limitations that you have in addition to the normal limitations of just being an Orion. Yeah. Yes, you can double in tournament, Chris. Yeah, you always can, always could. When it comes to the Orions, that's part of being an Orion. Of course, with the Orions, when you double the engines, each engine that you double, you have to go, okay, box going. And that's one thing I don't know for this ship, to be honest. And that is the impulse engines. They show them as 2 separate set of boxes, but I'm not sure if that's still considered 1 impulse engine, or is it 2 impulse engines? So I don't know about that. And that makes a big difference, obviously, when you're doubling. So if you double, you know, for impulse, you be down to either 2 or 3. Makes a big difference when it comes to power. But that's also obviously the difficulty with having Orion CA, which is you have 3 engines. So if you double 3 engines, there's three boxes marked off. But at the same time, you also got 30 power versus 24 power to start off with. So it can
And
be.
of course, that also means that if you ration your engine doubling individually, you get a little longer field endurance with it. It's like using the smaller battery arrays with maulers. You don't have to turn around and dump all the power all at once. You can dial it in for what you need.
Hmm. Right, right. I have to double check. Like in the Andromedans, I'm pretty sure for the Mauler, you actually have to dump each battery. Um, uh,
I was
capacity.
referring to the galactic maulers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
always have groups of 5 and then a couple of ones so that you can dial it in.
Right, right. That's what I meant. That was what I was pointing out, which is for the groups, because my understanding said you had to dump all the energy in that group. I wasn't sure if that was Andromedan only or that's all Maulers. Okay,
Yep,
well,
it's all maulers, and I think
okay.
the Andromedan maulers have to drop all the power in an individual battery box, whether or not they're coupled to other battery boxes or not. So if you've got 3 points in one battery, you can expend that battery on the shot. But
Hmm.
I'd have to go looking at that myself.
Okay. Okay, moving onward and forward. The Hydron Tartar, yes, that's used Tartar, um, tournament cruiser, which is, of course, quite interesting in that it's a Hydron ship with no fighters. It's a two-thirds movement cost ship. It's got let me look at this. 2 phaser 1s, 4 phaser 2s, and 2 phaser Gs, and 3 Hellbores. No fusions. Interesting ship. Turn mode B, so it can keep things moving around quite nicely. Let's look at this. Look at the power on this thing. We got 24 warp and 6 APR, so it makes it 30, and 4 impulse, 34. Wow. Ooh, geez. 34 minus 9 is 25. Minus 4 is. Okay. 34 minus 9. Yeah. 34 minus 9 is 25. Minus 5 is 21. 21. You move speed 30. You just don't have anything, no reinforcement, but you can move speed 30 and actually charge all your Hellbores. That's good. Obviously, the the one, yeah, yeah, has the 7th shield, the hull, and of course the great thing about this ship is that there's no fusions, so you're not gonna lose, you know, using a Mizzy attack, you're not gonna lose like half your weapons really quick, because of if it hits the torpedo, it's going to go from torpedo to phaser. Okay. You have plenty of phaser 2s. Now, here's, of course, the gotcha with phaser 2s. Phaser 2s, and okay, there it is. From over there, I was wondering where the chart was. Have you ever, for any of you that actually looked at the phaser 2 chart, because I'm sure a lot of people have got the phaser 1 chart memorized, phaser 3 chart memorized. Phaser 2, I've got, for the most part, memorized because that's what the Andromedans use. They don't use phaser 1s, they use phaser 2s. It's a simulation of what a phaser 2, it's a simulation of a weapon, and they choose phaser 2 as most closely matched of what the weapon damage is by the Andromedans. Now, given that phaser twos, the maximum damage is 6 points of 6 points of damage, versus a phaser
And
one.
that's only at point blank range.
Right, and phaser one, of course, is 9 at point blank. Maximum point blank range is 9. Now, point blank range, same time. The good aspect to phaser twos versus phaser ones, it's only one thing, which is the minimum damage is 5 points. Minimum damage for a phaser one is 4. So if you roll really poorly, you're in trouble. And with the phaser twos, it's 5.5 is the average, because 1 through 3, that's 6 points of damage. 4, 5, 6, that's 5 points of damage. Phaser ones is 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. So yeah, overall the average damage is going to be higher, which makes sense. But of course, if you roll poorly, you're going to do better with phaser twos. It's as weird as that might sound. Wow. Chris,
As long as you're inside range 3, that's true.
Yeah, Chris was mentioning how the Hydra only has 16 hull versus the Jandarian, which has 22. So Jandarian can take a little more of a beating, which is good to see. At least they have some advantage. And obviously, the issue with having they only have 2 phaser ones and 4 phaser twos. You're not going to get nearly as much damage at range 8, which is where people like this. That when start getting overloaded range, that's when people like get the additional hit. In the case of phaser ones, okay, range 5 is a sweet number. You want a sweet number when it comes to phaser twos, range 3. Range 3 gets a little bit close. Now, when it comes to the Andromedans, range 3, magnifique. That's, well, what can I say? You know, when it comes to the Andromedans, TR beams, the max damage range is 0 to 3. You know, so that seems to match it just beautifully. You know, obviously for TR beams, 4 and 5 is also pretty decent range. After that, then it goes downhill. But anyhow, so the hundreds doesn't look that bad. I would love the tough part, obviously, with this hydrant is going to be if you ever try. I really feel like you wouldn't want to try to overload all the Hellbores at one shot. In theory, you can do it, but you're not moving very fast. So if you've got your opponent cornered, yes, you're gonna shunt all that energy from movement, put it into the Hellbores, overload all 3 Hellbores, and then kind of slink away. Because I'm not so sure when you're putting forth 18 points of power into your Hellbores. Out of your 34, you have 16 left. Minus 4, that's 12 points of power left. 12 points of power. Your maximum speed is 18. Now, obviously, when it comes to speed, you can have it up and then do a midterm speed change to get below 18. But you know that means you might start at like 24 and then decrease it down to 12 at some point. So, or use all your batteries and just say I'm all in. You know, I think it's one of those times that you would probably only do it is for a killing blow, because unless you hit with all those Hellbores, because I understand they're 2d6, which means the greater probability when it comes to even out to range 8, which is it's a hit of 8, which gives you the mighty 7, which is the most probable die roll you'll get with 2 die 6, and everything else below it. But still, you can miss. Now, obviously, if you're the range 0 or 1, and the thing is, here's the funny part, and I know people who have actually done this. which is there are those people who've actually missed at range 0 with the Hellbore. They rolled 2d6 and they rolled 6 on both of them. So,
Yes, I will admit that one time while flying a squadron of Iroquois, I threw a freight train on my overloaded Hellbores. It was not pretty. It was
no.
okay. I concede.
I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm dead.
Yeah, by the time I get back into firing position with these things reloaded, you're going to shoot the heck out of me.
Yeah, you get to completely tear me up. Yep. I totally agree. So while we move on to the next one, which is the IC Tournament Medium Cruiser, which is interesting by itself. It's got only 4 phaser 1s. It's got 4 phaser 3s. Sorry, 6 phaser 1s. I missed the 2 360s right in the middle there. So 6 phaser 1s. You got 2 plasma Gs, which is interesting if you think about it, and a PPD.
And 4Fs.
And of course the 4Fs, which are of course limited due to them being defensive plasma Fs. You know, they only can fire at an actual ship once every turn, versus if you're fighting against like fighters, once you can blow away the fighters by, well, the only that's kind of funny if you think about it. Yeah, okay, I want to launch all 4 of my plasmas at the 2 fighters that are out there. Yeah, they will die if you launch all 4. But if you launch 1 per, nope. Because the fighter, because the only fighters that are in the tournament game are, of course, the hydrogen fusions. Sorry, not the fusions. The hydrogen fighters,
Stinger
which have, yeah, Stinger 2s, which have the fusions, but has a Gatling phaser, so it can kind of shred it pretty well. But it has those defensive plasmas, which is good. And of course, the interesting part about this ship is that it has 2 plasma Gs and a PPD, which is, if I recall correctly, let me just see if I can find it real quick. Which I'm pretty sure is the same thing. There it is. You got the two plasma Gs on the regular tournament cruiser and a PPD, but it just has more internals, and obviously more power because it's a 2-turn movement cost ship. And you look at the total. It's got 4 forward hull and 8 rear hulls. So this thing won't be taking damage all that well. When you start beating on it, it's going to crumble. Which is, I think that's the point of the medium cruiser to begin with, is that it, and of course these are for FP, the plasma Gs. Sorry, plasma Gs are FP. Unlike the regular IC tournament cruiser, which is LPRP, which overall I like that arrangement personally, as a person who's ever played a plasma armed ship, is that I prefer that over the FPs, and this is the reason why. That means I have the ability that when I'm running away, I have the ability to still launch my plasmas. Now, obviously, the difficult part about LPRP is that they have cross arcs. So you can have them both launch the same target at the same time, but it takes more work. Versus if you have 2 FPs, you have the whole front half arc to launch your 2 plasmas at the same time. How is the PPD as a weapon? Chris asks. PPD can be a pain. The good
It's one
thing,
of those weapons that takes a little bit of finesse to get it right in the zone, and it's easy for your opponent to mess with that. You get, I think it's up to 4 pulses with a standard charge, and if your opponent can get you out of arc, you lose any extra pulses. And you only get 1 pulse per impulse on successive impulses. Now, you can overload a PPD, but if he gets outside of range 8 or gets out of arc, you've lost everything, and he's got to
or
commit to overloading before firing.
and then there's the myopic zone.
Right. Yeah, he can get inside the myopic zone. He can turn around and, well, that's a double whammy. You're no longer hurting him, and he's closer, so his weapons are going to hurt you worse.
True. But at the same time, you're closer too, so your weapons will hurt him. This is pretty bad too. Um, but yeah, the PPD can be. I've never actually played with it, meaning I've never flown a ship with a PPD because, as I said, it's a pain. You can fly it, and the one thing that as an opponent, when I get hit with the PPD, I don't. It gets annoying because of each. It's like they hammer you and hammer you and hammer you. PPD is the ultimate weapon for Mizia. Because after you hit, boom, he hits you. He's gonna keep hitting you every single turn for the next. At least depends upon if you can do an underload, but most probably it's gonna be for the next 3 impulses. In which case, yes, you can turn your ship to have the main component, in this case, like usually it's 4 points of damage to a different shield. But remember, that's if you don't turn, that's 16 points of damage at range 10 against 1 shield. And then an additional 4 points of damage to the other adjacent shields. So, oh, sorry, yeah, sorry, Chris. Myopic zone is range 3 or closer. See right here, where it goes.
That's what makes
0, 0, 0.
that's what makes it so difficult with the PPD, because if you overload, you lose anything outside of range 8, and if he gets to range 3, you also lose.
Yep, yep. And I forget if you can overload while it's pulsing. I don't think you can, but I'd have to double check the rules on that.
You have, as I recall, you can specifically allocate an underloaded shot, and
Right.
you can add reserve power up to standard load. But if you want to fire overloaded pulses at all, you have to commit to that before you begin firing.
Okay.
That's my recollection of it.
And Jeff, I will defer to you and your recollection, because I can probably look it up. Just I don't think it. I think what you said is true, because that makes sense, and I think that is overall correct. So the big thing, obviously, with this ship is going to be power. It's got close to the same armament of the IC tournament ship, the normal one, but the minimum cruiser, okay, we got 24 warp, 4 impulse, that makes it 28, and 4 APR, so 32. So you got 32 power versus, I think the IC tournament cruiser has 38. So
30 warp boxes of warp versus 24 boxes of warp, and not a significant decrease in weapons output. Yeah, this one's going to be short on power.
Yep. And then if you want to, you got the PPD, you got the plasma Gs, which you can hold and you can play tricks with that. But then if you ever have to recharge the plasma Fs, you're in trouble. Though to be honest, with the plasma Fs, I don't think it has actually. I think there's 4 plasma Fs, and I think the tournament cruiser has only 2. Let me just double check here because I know it's close by. Da, 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 da. And there's the Saltorian. There it is. Yeah, it's got 2 plasma Fs, the regular turbine cruiser. Now, which means what you would probably be doing with the medium cruiser is that for at least 2 of the plasma Fs, what you'd probably do is just launch them, and you might recharge those, but you won't recharge the next ones. So, or you cannot, don't recharge the first ones you launch. It's not until you launch the second ones that you want to recharge those. So,
unless they've changed the tournament rules on plasma, you also have the 8 impulse grace period after the weapon system's destroyed to fire a charged weapon.
that is correct.
So you could actually use that second pair of plasma Fs as armor, so to speak.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you still have the for when it comes to the DAC, the third heavy weapon that gets hit has to be your best weapon, which actually, if I recall correctly, the PPD is considered your best weapon in this category.
Yes.
So, no matter how many, you got more heavy weapons, but unfortunately, you still lose your PPD on the third internal. So, moving on to something of a strange fellow, the Frax. And does this have? Let's look something. And no, I don't see it. Okay. The Frax are definitely a weird ship because of disruptors are FX arc and RX arc. So yes, you can fire all 4 disruptors on the same ship, but they have to be broadside. So you can't do them directly head. And this one, what I was looking for was for the AFD system. This does not have the AFD system. It just has the 2 drone racks and has the disruptors and of course the phasers. And the phasers, again, wow. That's
yeah,
nice.
an alpha strike, a broadside alpha strike of eight phaser ones, 4 disruptors, and you still have drones to throw at the guy to make him sweat, and you still even have phaser 3s you can hold back for anything on your own. The Frax ship is everything it's advertised to be, something you want to attack on the center line. It's one of the weird ships that you actually want to roll up the 1 or the 4 and not let it have an oblique angle.
Right. Oh, understood. To me, here's the difficult part about this, and it's just because of you're fighting broadside, which is, again, it's like the Andromedan. It's one of those abnormal things that you have to put your head around, which is on your attack, you'll be heading towards them using your shield number 1, but you can't fire. In theory you can, but you wouldn't want to. So it's not until you turn to at the very least an oblique angle to get to the oblique. You're not going to fire until you get to the oblique. So for an opponent, he has no reason. Only reason he has to fire at either your phaser, shield number 1 or shield number 4 at all is so that if you're coming towards him or you're running away from him, you are going to be getting internals. But the thing is, the Frax, for the most part, don't care. They care about their side shields because that's where they're going to be fighting through. So, obviously the difficult part about fighting through the side shields again is that you want to come flying directly at the guy. And here's the thing: unless it's Frax on Frax, Civil War, you've got your opponent who wants to come directly at you, and you want to do a broadside to him. And of course, if you're doing broadside, what's the problem with broadside? The problem with broadside attacks is that he he's coming. His weapons are at the front. So what he can do is he can keep running and come up behind you because you automatically have to already be turned to fire. So that means
Yeah, you have to turn to engage, which means you telegraph what you're doing.
right, and
Which
also
means, yeah, the other side of it is that, and this is power management for this particular ship, is with the 30 boxes of warp, 6 of impulse, and does it have any APR? Just 3 boxes of APR. This thing's going to fight a lot like a photon ship, because after you throw one broadside at the guy, you're going to have to spend almost a whole turn's worth of energy to turn around and refill your 10-point phaser capacity.
yeah, well, if you want to, but you know, as yeah, in addition, as you said, you know, it telegraphs your intention, but also to the point, which is you give up um, position because you're flying past him, and yes, you get to fire basically out your butt, you know, as you're running away. But that also can be a problem because he's going to be coming right at you. He's going to come. He's going to follow you. Obviously, you want to knock down his front shield so he won't follow you. Or his shine shield, you know, shield number 6 or shield number 2, same thing. So that you know, if he turns in towards you, you know, you've got him.
Yeah, you got to have ice water in your veins to fly this and not give away too soon, and turn around and put you in a position where you're going to give up your punch just to let him get a cheap shot in on you. It's just one of those ones that it looks really good on paper until you try to figure out how you're going to get boxed in by your opponent who's halfway competent.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Agreed. I'm going to mention one really quick, and then I think we'll call it close for this evening because I've seen some of these other ones which are just kind of weird. As if this one's weird enough, and I've actually flown against this and I hate it. And for those of you who have ever flown the simulator races, the Module C4, that is the Flivver. The Flivver is a very interesting ship in that it's got what's called hyperdrones. These are drones that go speed 64. Actually, not speed. I think they go greater than speed 64. They basically take two. They can take. I forget. They jump. I forget what the range is. I think it's. I want to say range 20 at the moment. I'm doing this from memory, so if I got this wrong, I apologize. They jump out to 20. If you're closer than 20, they're hyper drones. They will hit you the same turn that they're launched. If they are farther than 20, they will hit you the next impulse. And they can keep firing and firing and firing. That's why I hated this, because with the Andromedas, I ran out of phasers, and it just kept on beating on my PA panels at that point. And also the Flivver, if I recall correctly, they have what's called hover warp. So it can then move the ship so that it side slips in any direction. So it kind of hovers. You can do that after it moves. So it's a pain in the butt. Now, I forget how much the hyper drones do. How much? Yeah, I think it's like. I forget how much damage hyperdrone does, but I know it does quite a bit. I'm doing this from memory, and I want to say that it does 10 points of damage. I think it might do 10. Might be less. I forget, to be honest. But against a ship that has not many phasers, this is a pain ship. If you have lots of phasers, you're not got much to worry about with the hyper drones. Yes, he can keep firing at you, and he'll beat the crap out of you. No, he won't beat the crap out of you. He'll keep on firing at you, and just keep on knocking him off. And then you can have your shields and so forth. You can do this ship is not. I think against a Klingon. I think Klingon would wipe this the flivver off the map. Yeah, I'm pretty sure 20 hexes per impulse. Now, remember, I'm remembering this from like 10 years ago. So if I get it wrong, I apologize. But anyway, I think it's a really strange ship. It's another one of the ships that I'm not quite sure that it could ever really match a normal ship. It's one of the simulator race. The whole idea is to think differently. Think about tactics a little differently from the normal tactics you're used to, just like the sharks. Those shark hunters. Sorry, apologize. Shark hunters in C4, which is to me they're a very interesting empire, in that the shark hunters would they fly the I think it's the plasma, I think it's that they have, that's fly by wire. So they can go wherever they want to go. And the whole idea is that the shark hunters were used as a simulator race in the Romulan Academy. So it's like, okay, what happens if your cloaking device won't protect you? He can fly by wire. He knows where you are and go bloop. And what happens now, smarty? That's all. That was the whole idea of the academies and some of the simulator races. There's to think outside the box. Think what happens if the ship, in the case like the Frax, what happens if you have a ship that no longer doesn't fire directly ahead or directly behind? That all its weapons are to the sides. What do you do now? So, I think with that, we will wrap it up for this evening. Actually, let me just look at this real quick. Oh, yeah. They have a couple more in here. Of course, you got the Andromedans, got the Paladine, have the Borak, which is weird. But maybe I'll talk about, and of course also we have the Vudar, which actually is now considered a rated A ship. The Borak, I will come back to that at a later time, because this is the interesting ship. But maybe we'll finish this up next week, just to have a couple of the ships, a couple of these last weird ships to talk about. So Jeff, it's been a pleasure having you around, and
sure,
thank you for coming.
Have a good evening.
You too. Okay, bye. So we got through quite a few of the alternate tournament ships this evening. I hope you guys enjoyed some thinking about the ultimate tournament ship. And if you don't already have it, get module T2012. At the very least, get the SSDs. You can get those from the Warehouse 23, War Game Vault, or Drive Through RPG. At the moment, I trust Warehouse 23 heck of a lot better, more than the other two. What's the problem? I think it was War Game Vault. No. Drive Through RPG. That was the one where they lost my credit card. Someone broke in, and so like, okay, well, I only bought the one thing. I think that was for Mech Warrior. I think is where I got Mech Warrior stuff. And I have not bought anything from them since. It's not because I didn't trust them. It's just that I have no need, because most of my stuff I buy is ADB stuff. Haven't bought any Mech Warrior stuff for a while. So with that, I am Paul Franz, and I bid you a good night.